What's up, Neil?
Hey, Cal, how are you?
I'm doing great. Um, Not sure if you noticed, but we're at a remote location.
Yes, we are.
And actually we are in we call it the OG, the home base, where we used to all meet and go to concerts and stuff. So have some stuff going on in the studio. So we are on location, and I can't believe season 3, episode 6.
Yep, we did it
Where this
once
time,
again.
yeah, we've done it.
Again
And
and
again,
again
again, over and
and
over.
again.
And but I'm really excited about this episode because we have a very special guest with us. It's Ann Harris. Ann, welcome.
And we have Ann here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being with us. And that was your new single?
I didn't hear what you were
Oh
hearing.
my
I didn't
goodness.
hear the audio of it, so I have no idea. If it was like amazing, then my answer is yes.
Yeah.
If it was like,
Ah,
Well,
actually, it was. It was. I feel it once again.
yeah, then it
That
is.
I love that song, by the way.
Thank
Um,
you.
that's
I
too
can't
much.
thank you enough for joining us.
Oh, I'm honored to be here,
It
honestly.
is. Before we get into anything, it's just a very strange thing how things happen sometimes, right? Um, I saw tickets for Cracker,
Hmm?
which I fully representing.
I love the Winter Wonderland t-shirt there.
And
It is nice.
Cracker was one of those bands where I really liked them in college, and
Yep.
then you just kind of lose track and you get into other things. And then I saw that they were playing at the Magic Bag in Ferndale. And I'm like, well, I can't miss that show.
Yeah.
Because I never seen Cracker, even back when, or back in
Yeah.
the 90s. And I show up, and I remember I showed up to the merch stand. One, love the poster, fully autographed, and then I love the shirt. So I'm talking to the guy, and I'm like, so who's the opener? And it was Ann, and the name's slipping me of the guy.
Johnny
Johnny,
McGee.
that's right. Johnny
Yeah.
kill me. But and then he goes, I go, I've never seen Crack. He's always, you're in for something special. He goes, they got Ann Harris playing with them tonight. And so yeah, I'm watching you guys play, and I was blown away.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so
Just
awesome.
one, I love the addition of the violin with the group. It just works.
Cool.
Love the energy that you bring to it with everyone else. It was one of the, it was such a great show, and that venue, I just love it. So
I
it's
love that
amazing how
venue.
it happens.
It's a great venue for sure. I've never played there before, and those guys on the Winter Wonderland tour, they had been talking about some of the venues they were really looking forward to, because there were several really cool ones that we hit during that tour, and Magic Bag was one of them. It's just one of those places. It's got you could just feel the rock is soaked into the walls. You know,
Oh yeah.
it's got a great vibe, and the sound was incredible, and it was I think it was a sold out show. It was just the
Yep.
energy was so cool. It was really fun. So I'm glad
Oh,
that
it
was
was great.
a Cracker live experience. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. And some of the videos I posted on like YouTube, people are
Sweet.
blown away of the sound. Just how
Yeah.
great it sounds. And I mean, I was really impressed. The whole thing. It was
Awesome.
great.
Awesome. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Neil could not join us
Yeah, I
that
did not
day.
make that show, but I've seen all the videos and I think it's pretty obvious that it was awesome. So,
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry you weren't able to make it.
yeah.
Hey, that all that means is we're gonna have to hit one.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly. I'm trying to think what we have coming up this summer. There's dates constantly being added. And of course, I don't know if you're aware that that David Lowery, the founder of Camper Van Beethoven, has some 40th year anniversary of camper shows coming up. And he also has a new solo record that he's releasing in May, a couple
oh
weeks
wow.
after my new full solo record is releasing. So he's going to be doing some David Lowery solo shows, some camper shows. I think that the next ones for camper are coming up beginning of April. They've got a couple nights at the Fillmore in San Francisco,
Oh
and
nice.
that's incredibly exciting. So I think the next Cracker, like the Cracker season for the summer will start up in June after David finishes a
Right.
couple of solo shows, and that'll be at Red
I was
Rocks.
gonna say
Oh,
with Big
yeah.
Head Todd, right?
Yeah, Big Head Todd and Monsters do a weekend at Red Rocks and have special guests. And I cannot tell you guys what. a mind-blowing honor it is. I still can't believe it that I'm going to be able to play. I've never been to Red Rocks, and it's always been on my bucket list and a
Same
Absolutely.
here.
Same
dream
here.
just to see the venue, much less
Uh-huh.
play in it. So it's us and Cheap Trick, which is I'm in the Chicago area. That's where I'm based, and Cheap Trick is like darlings of this area because they're from Rockford, Illinois, which is
Uh-huh.
not far. So hometown boys, and
Cheap Trick
then of course Big Head
jams.
Todd.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I just saw Big Head Todd again.
Cool.
I've seen I've seen them probably close to 10 times over the 35 years, and saw them in Grand Rapids at a place called the Intersection.
Oh, cool.
Cool little,
Fantastic.
yeah, cool little venue. It was a great night. I mean, they still sound so good.
I know they really do. I'm trying to think, when did I see them last? It was within the last year, I believe we opened for them in Chicago at a
Okay.
venue called the Riviera Theater.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, they sound incredible. And
Riviera is a classic. I've never been there,
oh,
but I obviously
such a
seen the
great,
videos, hear the stories.
try to get yourself there someday. It's worth the
I am
trip.
going to the auditorium in June
Oh yeah,
to see
fantastic.
Ben Harper.
Oh, oh my God. That is I've been wanting to see Ben Harper live ever since I heard him, like his very first single. And I've never
You've
seen
never
Ben
heard
live.
that?
And he's just like
Oh,
he's such
amazing.
an incredible artist. His playing is amazing, his writing is incredible, his energy and band are always just that's gonna be amazing at the auditorium.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a little mini follow. I'm starting
Many.
June 4th in Toronto at Massey Hall, and then I'm coming back home to catch him at the Royal Oak Music Theater on June 6th.
Oh
And then June
wow.
7th, I'm going to Chicago because he's been one of
Oh,
my same as you. The first time I ever heard him, and then we saw him. He was the first opener, and then it was Freddie Jones' band and Dave Matthews' band at Pine Knob.
oh
I always
yeah.
say, and he sat, back then he never stood up. He was always
Yeah.
playing his slide.
Yeah.
And he was like just up in the front little corner of the stage in Pine Knob and just like wailed for like 30 minutes. I'm like, oh my God. And I see him as much as actually this will be the fourth state I've seen him in, I think. And then
That's so
country.
cool. Wow.
So yeah,
And
I'm
what a
super
lineup that must
excited.
have been. Totally,
And
totally.
then actually I was just in Chicago in December at the Aragon Ballroom for Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, a hometown show. I
Oh
remember that
yeah.
show was happening in December.
Yeah.
So
For
cool.
the was it the Twisted Christmas for
Yeah.
Q101 or whatever. Which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
I've
yeah.
never seen him in Chicago, so seeing him at home base was something special.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And then
Much.
and then did Lollapalooza last August too in Chicago. So it's
I've
kind of been my home
never
away from home.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, as any major city, there's, and being such like kind of a default capital of the Midwest or whatever,
Right?
Chicago is always going to guarantee great live music
Mhm.
experiences.
For sure.
Like all year round, indoors, outdoors. It's you can always find some incredible stuff happening here. And in Detroit area, of course. I
Oh,
mean, that's
absolutely.
another like
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, they're actually building a Pine Knob like venue in Grand Rapids right now.
Really?
Uh-huh.
So what's the story with that?
Um, I think they're just itching to have a good sized outdoor venue because all the acts go there in the summer. They have, the bigger ones are playing Van Andel. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of the outdoor small venues there. So they're hopefully it doesn't keep people from going to both.
I don't think it
I
will.
don't think it will either. There's enough
No,
strong enough community in both cities.
totally. And people are always looking for great outdoor experiences for,
Ann
mid.
Arbor's another one, you know.
Yeah.
You go walk through there in the summertime and then they have the free acoustic shows on Thursdays
Sonic
down
lunch.
Sonic Lunch and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you have ties to Ann Arbor, don't you?
I do. I am a U of M alumni. I was in the School of Music at U of M back in the day
Nice.
and
Back in the
moved.
day. Come on,
Yeah,
you're
back
come
in the day, this same thing with you
on.
guys. Like in early '90s, moved to Chicago after I graduated from Ann Arbor from U of M, and I have great memories of that town. There was a little bar that was conveniently just down the street from me. called Rick's.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you remember Rick's? Did
Oh,
you ever?
yeah.
Yeah.
Rick's
And
Cafe or whatever, right?
yeah, Rick's
Yeah.
Cafe. And my husband actually used to work at Rick's. He was a bouncer there and worked at the bar. And we met at Rick's on like a reggae night. And the thing that was great about that venue, and we're still married and still have such great memories of just like catching incredible live music.
Uh-huh.
And they had some great reggae and great blues that used to come through. All of the like Chicago blues people would route through Ann Arbor at some point on the and route through Rick's specifically because they had nights dedicated to reggae and blues and stuff. And
Hmm.
I just got introduced to some great bands, and there were some great local bands at the time too. But yeah, cool, nothing but beautiful memories of Ann Arbor for sure.
Right. So, I mean, we haven't even really got into too much, but so obviously you play violin, which I'm
Yeah, yeah,
a huge fan of. And
yeah.
obviously
Down
you
in my
had
basement right
violin,
now.
keys, anything like that. Oh, there
Yes,
we
there
go.
you go.
Feel free to play it if you want. We wouldn't mind.
I haven't even warmed up yet today.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, does that go back like, I know I've never done anything musically. I didn't even do it in elementary school. I went to the
What?
library instead. I
Yeah,
just have a love for music and like going to
both of
concerts
us
and
too.
yeah,
Both we love music.
but we know
Yeah.
nothing
We
about the
and
actual
yeah, and we
making or
love
anything
talking
of
to
it.
people like music.
No, wait,
However,
where you were born, where were you raised? Where'd you grow up at again?
Uh,
Exactly.
in Livonia, just outside of
Okay,
Michigan.
Detroit in Michigan,
sure.
and which is a very rich music history, obviously, in Michigan. And
Yeah.
but it was like I never really grew up with it. My parents never played anything. And when it came
Okay.
to like, I think it was more of an anxiety thing. And like, so I just went with what I knew. I went to the library and like read
Yeah.
books. But then it was like, it's amazing the sounds that people can make. And then when you put it all together, and I've said it like a million times, a lot of times the voice and the lyrics, I might not even understand one thing. It's just another instrument along with everything else and the experience of it. So, yeah.
That's yeah, I love that. That's the beautiful thing about music. I mean, it doesn't matter if you were trained in an instrument. I mean, the experience transcends um all the intellectual discourse and all the technical, this is how you do the thing. And the purpose, in my opinion anyway, really of it is to resonate somehow vibrationally,
Hmm.
um just to feel something, and it's different things at different times and many things through one song, and different artists bring out one. There might be an artist that's like, I just love dancing to this artist, and they're it's not about the lyrics being super
Hmm.
deep and whatever. It's about the vibration. It's about how it changes us. And when we talk about live music, it's about how we can um collectively in one room all vibrate on the same wavelength, because literally those vibrations of sound are all hitting us at the same time. So when you see a great concert, it's like, even if the person next to you is having the worst day of their life, they're experiencing in that moment, just like you and maybe the person on the other side that's having the best day of their life. We're all like at that same frequency. Those vibrations are hitting us all simultaneously, therefore connecting us in this collective, very specific way. That's the thing about music, about live music experiences for sure.
If you think of it, people even knew that, and not people knew that. I know a lot of people who like music and everything know that, but I mean,
Yeah,
if you don't, go to a show, go to a
Hmm.
live show, and just
totally.
sit there and just, oh my gosh,
You know what I always
right?
recommend now that I've been doing it more and more,
Yeah.
obviously, is one, go to a show by yourself, and two, have it be a band you're not that familiar with.
It's a great,
You know,
great
Yeah.
exercise.
and a lot of the times, like when I drive to a show, I just put my playlist on random. So whatever show, I'm not a guy that, oh, I've never seen or listened to this band. I'm going to learn as much as I can. I just go and
Yeah,
experience for the first time.
that's a beautiful thing. It's a
And
great way to do
it's
it.
when I always think about like recorded music you hear on the radio. Oh, check out this new one by so and so. There's so many times I'll hear it the first time, like, And it takes like five, six, seven times, and then finally, like, wow, this is really a good song.
Yeah.
I've never had that real feeling when I see a live show, even with a band I've never seen before or heard
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And it just, like you said, it's different. You
Yeah.
know, you're all experiencing that. Some people for the first time, but you're watching this person, it's their favorite song, and then they've seen it a hundred
However you
times and they're
are.
going
Yeah.
crazy. And, you know,
Totally.
so that you vibe off of that and you like, you build off of that. And that's where kind of the Killer Tunes part of our name comes from is,
Yeah.
like you said, you know, the same band, the same song, you hear it 20 times, but it hits different. You know,
Totally.
tonight it's in, and so that's what we say, like every show you have that one killer tune that you walk away from was, if I didn't see anything else, that just made it worth it.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I mean, unlike you, I grew up my parents didn't play instruments,
Hmm.
but I grew up in a really liberal um hippie town, college town in southwestern Ohio called Yellow Springs, and a tiny town but extremely progressive place in the middle
Hmm.
of a not very progressive area.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
And we were in this little bubble. And, you know, growing up in the 70s and 80s there, you know, we had this incredible music program, and every single kid was sort of forced to choose an instrument to try for some period of time. And then you could switch out and do something else if you didn't like that. But we had a band and an orchestra in our school. I mean, my graduating class was like 63 people
Oh, wow.
in high school. And I
I
grew
thought
up
you
with all
said it was
the same
tiny.
people. Yeah. Yeah, right. And I grew up with all the same. I mean, we went to kindergarten together. So it's like I traveled with this kind of the same group of people, and we all got it was a heavily arts centric and supported. And of course, the country was very different at that time.
Hmm.
Public
Mhm.
schools, so many have pulled arts programs and music programs. That's usually the first thing to go. It's considered
Unfortunately.
expendable,
Yeah.
and there's not a value placed on that, which is like such a tragic thing.
Yeah.
100% agree with that.
Because whether or not you end up as a professional performer, musician, artist, which very few people will at the end of the day, it 100% enhances you no matter what you do in supporting whatever you end up doing. Because there's something about, and I'm not a scientist, obviously, but I believe there's something about um, the way your brain works on music. It's kind of like the best drug there is.
Yeah.
It opens parts of your imagination and creativity. And when you're, you know, I think that's part of what's exciting about it. It's really good for problem solving. It's really good for imagination, which is like if you're working on a paper or you're fixing a car, your creative juices might flow better when you have a certain kind of music in the
Mhm.
background assisting you, because there's something happening with those neural pathways that are opened with that access point of music. So anyway,
Uh-huh.
my mom started she took me and my sister to see, when I was three, the movie version of Fiddle Around the Roof, the
Nice.
amazing musical, and she told me in the middle of the overture, where Isaac Stern, famous, long deceased, one of the best violinists in the world ever, kind of dude, was
Hmm.
playing that overture on the in the silhouetted on the rooftop, that I said to my mom, I stood up and I was like, "Mom, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do." And she was like, "Whoa, calm down." And I wouldn't stop bugging her about it. And then you know, it wasn't until I was 8 that I started that I got a private instructor. She finally, you know, was like, yes, this kid is not, she's serious. I had done a couple of trial camps or whatever, but I was just like relentless in my pursuit of learning. And I studied classical violin for 10 years. I was in the orchestra. I was in, like, you know, duets and trios that were playing for weddings and parties when I was in high school, doing, you know, just doing classical repertoire. But in our household, my parents, my dad particularly, were huge music lovers and had an incredible vinyl collection, which I inherited. My
Oh,
parents are
nice.
still around, but they downsized. So as soon as they knew all, I'm like, when you're ready to get rid of those, they're mine. So I got their vinyl, and I was turned on to a whole world through that collection, through listening to my older sister's records, like, you know, sneaking them when she left the house, and, you know, like it was a drug or something.
It is, it
And
almost
radio,
is.
because
Yeah.
at the time, you know, we didn't have streaming. I was listening to
Mhm.
like the radio to hear new music, and I was borrowing people's records, and we would like be like waiting for the new whatever record. Oh, the new Police record's coming out. We would go to someone's house, and, you know, with this pristine thing in plastic, and open and look through the liner notes and put on the record and listen to everything and play the tracks again. And
And
it
the
was just a whole
smell of it
different.
too when you open up that plastic. The smell of it, and all five senses are working, right? Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't
Uh-huh.
that the way? Like, it's so different today, the way we get. I mean, even though I'm old, like, the way I'm exposed to music today is just nothing like it was when I was little because of
Right.
technology, obviously. So it's just, so to answer your question, which was probably 10 minutes ago, and I'm over caffeinated. I need a beer.
No,
Uh,
You can talk all
well, we have some beer. We also have some mead, I think, for the first time on the
I've
show,
never
but
tried mead. Tell me,
I
is
haven't
that
either. It
honey?
was
That's
actually
honey, right?
it's
That's a
my
honey.
yes.
yes, and it was
Okay.
my in our fridge that we normally keep our two dudes beers in, but I think it
Yeah,
was my daughter's, but fair game if it's in there. So I'll be
totally.
checking out one of those next, I believe.
Let me know how it is. A friend of mine made mead a couple of years ago, and he said it came out pretty well. I didn't get
Nice.
to sample any of his, but he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to try it again and do this and this and this." I don't think he's tried since, but he did pretty well.
Nice.
So,
So you said, obviously you started, around 8, classically trained. So you went to U of M. And
yep.
then, I mean, I remember being at the show and I can never really hear very good, but I thought I heard David say that you guys met on like at a festival or something in the western part of Michigan. Was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So Michigan is near and dear to my heart for many reasons. One, you know, that's where I met my husband, who was born and raised in a little town called Three Oaks, Michigan, and
Okay.
it's just in the southwest corner near New Buffalo, and
Yep.
it's just about an hour and a half around the lake from Chicago, just east of Chicago. If you
Nice.
follow I-94 around
Yep.
the lake there, and there's a little theater there called the Acorn Theater, which has been around now for, I don't know, maybe 20 years or something. Great performance space that was born of a couple of friends. And David Fink was one of them, and his partner Kim was the other. They bought this old warehouse space and had this vision of like, we want to make a stage for live music, for theater performances, for karaoke, for what, just like a great sort of community hub. And it was
Nice.
just when this town of Three Oaks was starting to have other things pop up, like an art theater and a couple of restaurants. So it's really gone through this rejuvenation, and the Acorn Theater led that charge back in the day. So I've played there through the years. It's near and dear to my heart. And my friend David, who owned the theater, he now sold it, and it's a nonprofit, but he he booked Cracker there, and he texted me. He's like, "Hey, do you know Cracker?" And I'm like, "Well, I know some of their music,
Mhm.
but I've never seen them live or anything." He's like, "I just booked these guys, and I think you would be amazing, like a great addition to their band. Would you be open to, like, if I pitch them for you to open for their show and then maybe sit in with them on a couple of tunes?" And I'm like, "That'd be awesome. I would love that." So he ran the idea by their camp, and they were like, "Sure, that sounds good."
Is that
So I remember during my sound check, and I just did it like a 30-minute acoustic opener, me and a guitar player. And my music that I write is kind of all over the place. It's sort of folk, it's sort of Americana, it's sort of like trancy, bluesy with Celt. It's under the Americana umbrella. But David Lowery was kind of sitting back watching my sound check, which made me super nervous because I'm like, oh shit, you know. Because usually, like, no one listens to the opener and they're going to get dinner or whatever. But he was checking it out, and he checked out my show, and then asked me up on for like a song. And when I played the song, and then when I was getting ready to leave, he's like, no, stay for no, like it just flowed. I totally resonated with their music, and I loved it. And Cracker has a tradition of this open door policy where through the years they've had many guests come up, fiddle players, other fiddle players, pedal steel
Mhm.
players, guitar player. They're really open with that sort of cross-pollination
I
jam
love
thing, which
that.
I love because it gives the audience a new take on something they've been listening to and loving. And
Hmm.
sometimes in the case of like
What
a
kind of would
pedal,
we probably wouldn't have known you unless I'm not, not known, but I mean,
totally, totally. And David Lowery is kind of relentless in his support of indie musicians and of like creating this small community and sort of like stick it to the man because they got messed over um, by the big corporate record company
Hmm.
powers that be and that whole model, and is very much an advocate of musicians' rights, and that trickles down to the way they structure that band where they do encourage new people to come in, and even if it's only for a show or two or whatever.
Right.
So um, that led to whenever they were in the Chicago market, they would ask me, "Hey, if you're around, come. We'd love you to come sit in on something." And then it was like, "Hey, can you do these shows?" And it just grew into a beautiful friendship and a musical alliance. So I'm doing a bunch of dates with them, have exciting stuff coming up with them, and it's been such an honor to be on this journey the past couple of years with the band. The fan base is unbelievable, so
They
loyal.
really are. They're diehards for
I
sure.
know.
I mean,
And they'll do stuff like bring cookies to the show, and here's a tote bag, and you need a mug, and and among each other, they'll get on the social boards and be like, "Hey, I need a ride from the airport," or "I'm driving here, and anyone need a ride?" Like it's a real community. It's beautiful.
hmm. Yeah, it
uh,
is. It really is. And the one thing I did like about the show too, well, first, actually, I meant to mention this. So I did after the show, I went on the Googler and put in Ann Harris and Cracker and it used the term that you guys met on a music blind date. So I guess that's
Yeah,
exactly what you
that's
just
what it was.
described to us.
That's exactly what it was. This
That's
friend that was
hilarious.
sort of like, because he was in the meantime, like whispering in their ear, whispering in my ear, like, "Hey, I
Mhm.
think you like them. I think you like," and
Right.
it was really
Check the
cool. It
box,
was,
yes or
yeah.
no.
It
Well,
was
and
like,
then the
yeah,
other thing you're talking about the way you consume music and this and that. The one thing people I think kind of missed out on, during when we were growing up was a lot of times you were exposed to new music just through live music.
yeah,
You went and saw a band and it was the opener,
totally,
or you would go and maybe smaller venues, real local, and you're seeing these local acts, and
yeah,
you just kind of grew your following, and then you talk to people at those shows.
yeah,
And that's also the best thing. You go and meet people. I go, it seems like half the time I'm talking to people, more than I'm watching shows sometimes, but never while they're playing, always outside. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
can't stand the talkers during a
agree.
show.
yeah.
Oh, Rick.
So, but now obviously you have a quite a wide I would say catalog of solo stuff with some new stuff coming out.
I
And
do, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm really blessed in my career that I get to work with a bunch of different artists and tour with a bunch of different people in support. But also I've been the whole time writing myself,
Mhm.
and I uh so I'm excited about this new record because it's been a while since I've released a project of my own. But I went to Nashville and worked with a producer by
Nice.
the name of Colin Linden. He's an incredible musician and producer, singer, songwriter, and we were connected through a mutual musical friend. It's like all of my connections have been really organic. In
Hmm.
I'll talk to a friend that's like, "Hey, do you know my friend so and so? They're looking for a fiddle player or whatever." It's like all my things kind of flow in that way. So I have been writing and looking to make a record, and I was introduced to Colin, and he's got a little home studio that his wife built. His wife is an architect, so she
Hmm.
designed this little
Oh,
home
wow.
studio in a garage space that's like separate from their house, and it's beautiful. It's really small, but really
Just to
sweet.
jump in real quick, we are
Yeah.
looking for a new studio, so maybe you can send us his name.
Nashville,
I'm just kidding.
baby. And it's a great town. Yeah. All you need for a studio is a good microphone and a laptop,
100%.
you know?
You know, our thought was it's better to get started and get out there and do it than try to perfect it because you never will, right? I,
No, it's,
I
you
gotta
know,
imagine it's kind of like music. At a certain point, you just get out there and do it. You're never going to be perfect
Yeah.
enough, you know? And what you find out is sometimes those imperfections become like the one
yeah,
thing that makes it that unforgettable moment.
absolutely. That's such a good point. You know, it's
Hmm.
like I think our culture is really results oriented, and that final end game needs to be perfect, and it's sort of reflective in social media. Like you have to look perfect, you have to be
Oh,
a perfect age, you have to be, you know, everything you, but you know, it kind of misses, in my opinion, the whole point, which is really the journey. Because as long as you're result oriented, you're never going to get there. Because that's the end. That's
Right,
like that's when your heart stops beating. You know, it's like it's
right.
all about the messy, not perfect, happy accidents. It's life is really a process, and
100%.
certainly art is, and it's also not an end point. It's a continual evolving kind of experience, even something that's been recorded. So I'm going to pull out a record from
right.
Led Zeppelin, you know, or whatever. It's like, oh, this thing is cemented in time, so it sounds a certain way that's not going to change. But because I'm still growing, the way I first heard it is going to be so different from how I've heard, how I'm going to listen to it now with
Hmm.
all this other worldly experience
Yeah.
and life experience that changes the context.
Yeah, wait till you go through the time where you have a song that hits you like at the most joyous time ever. But then
Yeah.
you hit that same song at the worst time ever, and it's like they're now fighting each other when
Yeah.
you hear it. Like, oh my God, do I love it or I hate it? Should I cry or sing? I don't know.
Exactly. That's so funny.
So, um, what are some of, your influences? Because one thing I want to say is your passion when you play is, I don't know if I've seen someone at that level.
Thank
Watching
you.
you play and just the passion up there and
Thank you.
some of the moves you do, I can't even, I mean, it's insane. And just
Thank you.
watching you have fun and you really, and it goes back to that. You could see those other guys on stage just vibing right off of that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And
Thank you so
then
much.
the one part that I really liked is when they were like, "All right, here's Ann Harris," because a lot of times, people are seeing you for the first time, even if they've seen Cracker numerous times,
Yeah.
and you're up there all by yourself doing your thing, doing your solo thing. And the one thing I've learned is not just a great fiddler, great voice. And
Thank
that
you.
new song that you just dropped, I mean, I mean, I love it. So
Thank you.
I just
Thank
wanted to say that, but
Yeah.
that I felt that in the crowd. That's what I love is when you go and see someone, you can, bottom line, are they having fun? Because if
Yeah.
they're having fun on the stage, it's impossible for me to not have fun out here.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw that day.
Wow. That's the highest compliment. I mean, you know, when I play with people, I mean, I'm lucky in that really the only artists that I collaborate and play with are people that I love
Mhm.
their music, because I can't just phone things in. I'm sort of a, you know, like I have to really love it, and I want to feel like I'm contributing something to it. And with Cracker's catalog, and with them as people, because they're wonderful people. They're like brothers, you know, they're
Mhm.
really
Sure.
solid people, and we tour well together. And there there's there's a thing that is like this resonant frequency. When I feel the music, I can just be on the journey. It's like drifting down the river and going by all these beautiful with a cooler in a little, inflatable tire on a
Right.
beautiful summer day with a cold beer in the water. And it's like, oh, there's a turtle on the log. Oh, that's a pretty thing. And that's what the journey of performing can be for me. And what I try to do and when I know it's feeling right is when I'm present. When a little mistake doesn't matter. I don't care if I'm making a fool of myself or if I look silly or if someone like none of that shit matters because I'm just in the moment of like, oh, Johnny just played this great lick and Carlton Coco, the drummer, just did this great hit and I just feel that and it
Mhm.
makes and then it makes me respond in a way and then that flips around to Brian, the bass player, and he does it. That's what the live music experience is about. Like we're all creating as musicians in that moment, even though maybe that song's been like played thousands of times. Those guys have been playing some of those same songs for, 35 years.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
live, they're a different thing every single time
Right.
because we're interacting with each other. And so um my the work that I charge myself with daily and every single time I step on any stage I'm like well I say a prayer to the goddess of rock asking me not to suck first of all and then
You can
I
suck a little bit, but that's it. Yeah. I
exactly and then I just really try to be in the moment and in with whatever imperfection is happening and just honest, just be like driven by my heart and driven by
yeah,
an
there you go.
honest interaction and musical conversation with my brothers that I'm up there with.
Mhm.
That's my job to do. So thank you for enjoying that experience.
Oh,
That makes me, that's why I do it,
Yeah.
to
well, I want to say I thought I saw Cracker was going to be playing a festival or something in the western part of Michigan sometime this summer.
I have to look and
And I wish I would have looked before, but I remember thinking like, oh my God, like that'd be great to me and Neil make a quick little road trip to the west side of the state. I
we
gotta
are
look
going to
that up.
you know what? We are going to be back in Three Oaks, the venue I was telling you
Oh,
about
okay.
in June, and I would have to look. I want to say it's mid-June.
That would
Maybe
be
I can look at
amazing.
I'll look at my calendar real quick
And
because
if
I
it's in that part of the state, there's definitely, some camping. We'd maybe go back like 30
oh yeah.
years, camp, go to a great show, and just
Yeah,
take
and
it easy for a
you
week.
will love that. Yeah, okay, on June 21st, so it's the summer solstice, we're going to be at the Acorn Theater
Oh,
and that's again in Three
so
Oaks,
that's the one you were
Michigan.
referring to earlier then.
Yeah, that's where we first played together. When I first ever stepped on stage, it was at the Acorn Theater, so it'll be our
Well, Neil,
reunion.
I don't think we have a choice. I think this is
Yeah.
absolute destiny.
Yeah, I think you need to do it and it's you'll like I said, you'll love the theater. There's a great also so that the Acorn Theater is on one part of this big uh uh building that was rehabbed and
Oh,
part of it
nice.
is the theater. One end is a private residence and then the other end is a place called the Journeyman Distillery. I don't know if you know if you're a fan of whiskey, bourbon.
I
Yeah.
mean, does it give you a buzz?
Yes, it does.
Okay, then I'm
And,
probably a fan of it.
yeah, and it's
No, I like
made
a good whiskey every once
the
in a while.
Journeyman Distillery is like Michigan brew. It's my husband's
Journeyman.
favorite whiskey. It's
Okay,
Okay.
made
absolutely.
on site. It's delicious. They have a great menu for, food and nosh, and then
Yeah,
just a
you can
great.
eat there too, but you mostly want to drink.
You want the spirits. You want the spirits, and so
I think we got to make that happen. I think that'd be just a great time.
Cool.
right next to the theater, grab a little Airbnb or something in the area or a little hotel. I
Hmm.
don't know how far of a drive it would be for you guys, but worth making the trip.
Yeah.
I
It's part of the fun of going to shows is making those little road trips, hitting the different venues.
exactly.
I can go to all the venues in Detroit, or Ferndale and all that all day long. I love them. But
Yeah,
going to see a band that you love, like in a different venue, different state, whatever it is it
yeah,
just hits a little different,
it does.
It
It
gives
does.
you a little different excitement. It gives you almost like, um, maybe not the best example, but the drug addict. You do it the first time, you're always
Yep,
chasing it, but that
yep.
almost gives you that.
it
You see him in a different place, it gives you a little different,
It
buzz going and
does.
seeing them,
It does. It really does. The environment you see something in has everything to do with that experience. That's why, hearing about this new outdoor venue you were speaking to
hmm
in Grand Rapids, when is it supposed to be open? Do you know?
I'm not entirely sure, but I believe they either started to work on it or it was definitely fully approved to begin work if it hasn't started yet.
Cool, cool.
And so, like I told you, I went to Big Head Todd and the Monsters, and I went to see, I don't know if you've ever listened to Goose. They're a jam
I've
band.
heard of Goose. Yeah,
Okay.
jam band. Yeah,
They
I
played
heard of
at
them.
GLC Live at 20 Monroe in
Okay,
Grand Rapids. I've never been to that venue. And I mean, what a great place.
nice.
Kind of like St. Andrews, where it's kind of got the horseshoe up top, where you can
Oh,
go
okay.
up and watch and then down
Sweet.
the main floor. But for that night, it was all general admission and just a great atmosphere. I mean,
Oh,
I'm not a
cool.
huge jam band person, but I love going to those shows. Billy Strings is
yeah.
one that kind of fits that mold now.
Totally, totally.
And we went and saw him, but just that vibe of being at those types of shows where, I mean, you really can't beat it.
As
Yeah, I think especially with jam bands,
Hmm
the atmosphere, the venue, is so crucial to the experience,
100%.
so like as a musician, do you feel that too? Like the crowd, like is the you obviously go into a show and say, all right, I'm gonna be the, but then you feel the energy, the sound, the people
Yeah.
that is that something that gets you
Totally.
going? Yeah.
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 Rooms have their own personalities for
Sure.
sure. And obviously, people filling the rooms is the biggest element because you got all that energy of like all the people there. But like, that's why some venues are just like have a history because
hmm
like, oh my God, all the people that have been on this particular stage through the years, all the people that have, thrown up in that bathroom of
Never happened. Maybe once or twice. But I have a few hundred or whatever. I mean, it's bound to happen once.
But all those memories, yeah, rooms definitely have their own kind of vibe, their own sort of personality, and because I think again, like I was talking about energy and sound earlier, and how well, everything is energy from certainly a quantum
It's
physics
all connected.
standpoint. Everything is all connected.
Entire like
Everything is
vibrations and
energy,
frequencies. Yes.
and every and frequency and every single space, every room holds that. That's why you can walk in. That's why there's like places that are haunted. Why you walk into a place and you're like, it just doesn't feel right. I can't wait
Right?
to get out of here. You walk into a bar and you're like, this is awesome. It
Uh-huh.
feels good in here. There's like every place carries the energy of the people and the
Yeah.
experiences that they carry into it, and it's in the space.
And the
And
unfortunate thing is you could go in that place 2 days later and it could be the best place. So you don't want to turn around and walk
yeah,
out. But
yeah.
just because it's got a different energy that day.
Yeah, it depends on the people in it and what's happening in that space.
Uh-huh. So what I want to know is now flipping it around, being a fan of music and going to concerts. One, who was the last person you saw, and do you remember the first person you saw in concert?
Last person I
Or
saw,
person or band or whatever.
yeah, the last band I saw was last week. I did Camp In, which is Crackers Festival. It was their 11th year of doing this indoor festival. It's called Camp In because they used to have a Camp Out festival out in California that I think they are reviving. I'm going to be playing that one as well later
Oh,
this
nice.
season. But Camp In usually happens around the beginning of March in Athens, and it's based around the 40 Watt Club, which is an iconic venue, and it was instrumental in bringing a lot of bands that ended up being huge up through the 90s, Cracker being one of them, B-52s being
hmm
another. REM being another. In fact, the
Yep.
week before Cracker, REM had come back for a reunion show
With
in,
Michael Shannon, the
yeah,
actor.
exactly.
Somehow he's like going around with a band playing like REM songs, and all
And
of a sudden they like
totally,
heard about it and they've like kind of joined him here and there.
totally,
And
totally. And
what great actor. If
yeah,
you haven't watched Boardwalk Empire,
I haven't
oh,
actually.
so Michael Shannon's in it. It's got Steve Buscemi. It's based
No.
on basically real life, like New Jersey, Atlantic City, like in the
Okay.
19 teens.
Okay.
And it's got a lot of the old gangsters, like the real life ones. And I won't think of them right now
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I'm on the spot,
Ooh.
but they're actually like in their early 20s. You watch them kind of growing up, and then
Wow.
by the end, you see how it all. Capone obviously is one of
Yeah,
them,
yeah, yeah. Okay,
and Lucky
cool. Yeah.
Luciano and those types. But they're
Nice.
like 20, 21. They're like the guys working for these guys, and then it's a
Yeah.
really good show.
That's
Uh,
awesome. I've heard of the show and I know it's been like, critically acclaimed and stuff. People
mhm.
love that show. So
And yeah, absolutely.
cool.
God, I forget. God, is it Michael White was in? I won't think of it.
Yeah.
He just passed, but he was a great actor. He's in it also, and I'll never think of the name. But no,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely
yeah.
check that one out.
I will. I will for sure. Yeah.
So you said you were at
So,
camping.
so
So
the
who was the
last
band
band
you
that I
saw?
saw at Campin was this great band called Hack and Saw Boys. They
Okay.
opened for Cracker. So Ike Riley opened on the first night of the big shows on Friday night, and then Saturday night was Hack and Saw Boys. And both of those bands, Ike Riley, incredible band live, incredible. And he's just one of these, he's one of these singer-songwriters that's been out there into the trenches doing it for so long, and he's such a great writer. You're like, why is this guy not like super uber famous? Because he
Hmm.
really is a wonderful writer. Now he's got his young boy, not young, I mean they're young men, they're in their late teens, early 20s or something, touring with him, so they sing
Oh,
backup vocals and play guitar, and it's just like it's a great vibe. He was on
nice.
Friday night, and then Hackensaw Boys are, I had never heard of them, but they've had a long-standing relationship with Cracker as
Okay.
well. They're a bluegrass band, and they blew my mind. I love bluegrass fiddling, and I'm not a bluegrass fiddle player, but the player who I don't know his name, their fiddle player in that band, I was just like, my jaw was, their sound was so tight. He sounded so great. It was such a joy to hear them and be introduced to their music.
Hmm.
So those are the two most recent shows that I was just like blown away. And Ike Riley, I've heard on and off through the years, like he is from Chicago as well, and but I hadn't seen him live in a really long time. So it was great to like after a period of time see him.
No, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because me and Neil, actually, you're from Chicago. So me and Neil just went to a show on Thursday night at
Yeah.
a place called The Loving Touch in Ferndale.
Okay. I
It,
think I've heard of the
I had
Loving.
never been there. To me, it's newer, but it could have been there for 15 years for all I
I don't
know.
know. Yeah, I've never
It's
been there,
a
but I've heard of it.
really small, intimate venue, but the band was Frico, which is a Chicago-based band,
Yeah, yeah.
Friko, and I actually saw them for the first time at Lollapalooza last
Yeah,
summer at a small stage.
they just broke out recently within the
Oh,
past couple
so
years.
have you heard them?
Heard of them, and they've been
Oh, of
playing
them?
some of their like a couple of their hits have been crossing into radio here in Chicago, local radio station,
Okay.
and Spreaco.
And
That's
I
how
know
I
they've been playing quite a few shows around Chicago over the last
yeah.
year or two. And then I saw them, they actually opened for an Australian band called Royal Otis.
I don't know that band.
Okay, they're known for the cover of Linger by the Cranberries.
Oh,
So they
okay.
kind of made it through that. And actually I was pretty impressed by them. It's like, you know, 22, 23-year-old kids or something. I call them
Yeah.
kids because I'm 50 now, so it's
Right.
like it's amazing to see that.
It is.
And but so I saw that Freako open up for them, but me and Neil went the other night to this venue. The albums come out. This is kind of the back end of their first headlining tour,
Yeah.
and seeing them Thursday night versus Lollapalooza, and then even I was blown away just like with the growth in that short amount of time.
Wow. Yeah.
And and I know you mentioned Ike Riley. Maybe not growth, but just if you haven't seen them a long time, the way they play, it might,
Yeah.
a lot of times you hear it in vocals, just as people age or whatever, but their playing might change or this or that, but it doesn't mean it's bad, you
Yeah,
know? And that's the other thing with people is like a lot of them want artists from when we were growing up to play everything that they played back then.
right.
But a lot
And
of bands
play
are
it
still,
like they used to play. They
right,
just want the jukebox.
right. But a lot of bands are still putting out good music.
Yeah.
And when they play, they want to play that, right? They're proud of that. And a lot of, the lifelong fans enjoy that part of it. Like I
Totally.
still enjoy hearing a whole album. You
Yeah.
brought that up. We consume things so differently. Like you mentioned that brand new album. Someone
Yeah.
gets it, you go and you're trying to record it or whatever, or you go and wait in line
Yeah.
until Tuesday at midnight, remember? So you could get that brand new album because you
Yep.
couldn't wait.
Or get a ticket for a show.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Or get tickets for a show or something. But
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why we drop our episodes at Tuesday at midnight, kind of like an old
Nice.
homage to the hardcore people like us that would go and wait in line at wherever to buy that
I
album.
love it.
So that
Yeah.
you
Well,
could be the one to say, "Hey, come to my house so you can record it." And you're the cool one
well,
for today.
you asked about my very first concert and
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the very first time oh gosh, it's because my chronology is a little wonky. My very first concert was I went to this jazz fest in Cincinnati, which was about an hour drive south, and it was a big stadium thing, and I went to see Al Jarreau because I loved Al Jarreau as a vocalist when I was a kid. I know he's a weird kid, but like that but then my first like high energy at this theater in Dayton, Ohio called the Hara Arena. I saw Rick James and the Stone City Band, and that
Oh no, no shit.
and I like got down to the front row, and that was blowing my mind. So the first thing I saw was like a jazz like kind of concert thing and whatever. And then I saw Rick James and the Stone City Band, and I was just forever changed. I
Well, now
mean,
this all makes sense.
it
He sounded
totally,
James
totally.
alive.
He was unbelievable. He was
I
such
bet.
an incredible performer. He sounded so great. The band was of my and the crowd. It was something that changed forever. Like just seeing that um artistry and that power on that such an elevated level, it was like it was a game changer for me, certainly.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how big of a factor in music Rick James truly was.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
and I know a lot of people don't know, but his very first band he was in was with Neil Young in
I
Canada.
didn't know that.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Well, then that tells you a lot about Neil Young, because
Uh,
Neil Young, he's such an incredible. I think he's far more. He's another person that people tend to pigeonhole into a certain kind of Neil Young, but
mhm.
Yeah.
he's way bigger than
Yeah.
how
It's
people.
Well, I will say Neil Young has been one of my favorites for 30 plus years. And on Two Dudes and Killer Tunes, we have our Forever Five, we call it,
Yeah,
where you're on a deserted island, you have five bands,
yeah,
acts, artists, but you have their whole catalog.
yeah,
So I always go through mine just because Smashing Pumpkins, Ben
okay,
Harper,
yeah,
Wilco, another Chicago band. Oh my God, those guys, and we caught them
yeah,
right
too much.
right after Uncle Tupelo broke
Both of
up.
us too much.
okay,
So like
yeah,
we were seeing them in like a 500,000, person little places in Detroit, and it was like, oh my
yeah,
God,
Yes.
and still follow them to this day.
yeah. Wilco, I mean, come on, that
Jeff Tweedy's just awesome.
and to Chicago, of course,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
Jeff Tweedy went on to produce like the Mavis Staple records that he's produced
Hmm.
Oh, there you
are
go.
Yeah.
unbelievable. I'm a huge Mavis Staples fan,
I love collaborations too,
and me
like
too, me too.
especially ones that you're like, wait, where did this even come from? But
I know, but that like his records with her are like my favorite Mavis record. When I can't say that, I love Mavis and I love her.
yeah, but you like seeing kind of that mashup, something
Yeah,
kind of different where you see people that may be younger that you wouldn't normally see a duet or a collaboration with or
Yeah,
whatever. So those are really the fun ones to see. But I
totally.
guess I glossed over Smashing Pumpkins, of course, Chicago too. Um, but then I have Lou Reed is in my Forever Five.
Oh,
And
wow.
so
Okay.
now with the way that you consume music, I'm playing kind of that game because if I go to Spotify, I can find so many Velvet Underground songs that Lou Reed just sings.
Right.
I'm getting a lot of those.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
I'm going with that is my last one is actually Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Okay,
And
right
I did the
on.
same thing with that where, well, I'm going to get a lot of those Neil Young songs that they would play, but
Yeah,
now I
yeah.
get all of them
Yeah.
together, which
Right.
those harmonies, and we saw
Oh,
them live, what, 25 years ago at the
oh my God,
Palace.
that was like a perfect time to see them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because
Because,
they
yeah,
were
I mean,
still,
they were a little aged, but they were still playing like they did
yeah,
back in the 60s,
Yeah, and
70s.
the
yeah.
voices
That's
sounded good.
Oh,
where'd you see them?
it was at the Palace.
Palace and
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And, which, you know what? People would be like, oh, arena shows are, but the Palace actually was one of the better arenas I remember seeing shows in. And maybe it was just bias, right? Because you're there, you're loving it, and you're in the
sure.
Yeah.
moment. But you know what? I've learned that I can have a great time at Comerica. Like it's the environment, it's the music. But that show, I mean, to see those four guys up there, and I've seen Neil Young, probably close to a dozen times by himself, but to see
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
seeing David Crosby sing, almost cut my hair,
Mm.
and just some of those other ones. And,
That's amazing. What a fortunate thing that you have that in your bag that you
and
could.
I will never forget that me and my brother went and saw Neil Young. He did a real intimate acoustic set
Mhm.
at the Fox Theater.
Oh, wow.
And I
Just
mean,
just with him by him solo?
just him
Or-
by himself, all acoustic.
Wow.
And I mean, it was like 2.5 hours or something. I mean, you weren't allowed to get up and go down to your seat until it was between songs. It was like that
Yeah,
type of setting.
yeah.
And I will never forget that was the first time ever I paid $100 to get into a concert. I called my brother, and this is like probably like late 90s, mid and late 90s. I'm like, hey, Paul, they're $100, but I mean, it's
It's
Neil Young
worth
by
it.
himself acoustic at the Fox, and we're going to be like 20
I
rows back. I don't know if
mean,
you can
yeah,
beat that.
yeah, no, that's like an essential thing and
Yeah.
an investment that you're investing on your like whole life with that.
No, but
And then
I,
yeah, and
I
then
love
20
you
years
said,
later we're talking about it. We're
right.
like,
It is an investment because
Totally.
that's a memory.
mhm.
That's an
That's
experience.
right. That's an
But that beats
experience.
anything tangible, even the mead, which is great, by the
Is
way.
it good? Nice. So
It's
what's
the
the what
Shotgun Wedding by St. Ambrose Cellars out of
great
Michigan.
name?
Yep.
What does it taste like? What's
It-
is it sweet or is it
it's honey apple, strawberry, rhubarb is in it,
oh,
and
but I mean, is it a sweet kind of beverage? Is
I
it
would
like
say it's
wine or like
smooth. You know what? Actually kind of. Oh, you got one too, Neil.
Yeah.
It kind of almost like a shorts, soft parade
Sweet.
a little
Yeah.
bit. Kind of
It's
gives me,
tart.
yeah, it's a little bit of tart in the end,
okay.
but it's smooth, a little bit of sweetness to it. It's
Good.
Is
good.
it is it so is it carbonated or smooth?
It's carbonated.
But it's smooth. It
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
taste. It doesn't taste like carbonation.
Okay,
It tastes
that's
like
what I
a
wondered.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's gluten free. It's 6% alcohol by volume, so a little bit more than a normal beer,
right.
but nice
And
little change. I don't know if I could sit and drink 6 or 8 of them, but
right. But for a
Yeah,
mix
little
them in between these
yeah,
other
yeah,
fine
yeah.
Michigan beers, the Bell's Brewery, the
Exactly.
Old Nation, and the
Exactly.
Sheboygan.
Yeah, you guys definitely, if you go to the Acorn, go to the Journeyman and
Oh,
and do a tasting, do a
well, I
flight.
can't wait to put it in the Googler after, and we're going to figure this out because I
Yeah, yeah,
bet
yeah.
you're definitely going to see us there. It'd be awesome to meet you in person.
Yeah,
One
that'd be
thing I
fun.
did want to mention, is there's a festival, and Neil, I think I mentioned this to you, kind of in the Monroe area, not far from like when you cross the border into Ohio, into like Toledo and stuff.
Okay.
They have a festival. It's something like the River Raisin Festival.
I never heard of that one.
And I don't know if it's the first year this year or whatever, but it's very new, and it's kind of marketed as an Americana type festival.
Cool.
And
Oh,
after I saw you play with Cracker, I just sent him actually a message on Instagram.
yeah.
And one, I was like, "Hey, this sounds super cool. I'll make sure he mentioned it on an upcoming show." But then I saw him like, I don't know what's going on, with 25, but if anyone hasn't reached out to Ann Harris, you might want to, because I thought you would fit the bill perfectly for something
Awesome.
like that.
Thank you. What's
And
it called again? I'm going to write it down.
it's I'll make if I don't have it exactly right, but it's like a river raisin festival.
And it's
Like,
Northern Ohio there.
well, it's southeast Michigan, like in the Monroe, Michigan area.
Yeah, but
So
near,
right before you get into like crossing over into Toledo, Perrysburg, Maumee, that stuff.
okay.
But what they did tell me is, well, we're obviously locked up for 25
Yeah,
because they're coming in like 2 months. But she
yeah.
said 26 could definitely be an option. But it was
That's
one of those
cool.
things like, as I'm looking at it, I'm like, the way this is described and what I just saw you doing up there, I thought it would be like a cool fit. I know you got
That's
ties to
awesome.
Michigan and stuff like
Yeah,
that. And
totally, totally. That's cool to hear. Thanks for the heads up. I'll
absolutely. And that's kind of what we like doing is exposing people to that music. Because
yeah,
as an artist, and I've never asked a true artist this before. So obviously, with two dudes, I'm taking videos of the concert.
yeah.
Now, what I will show, this is how I take videos. It's
Uh-huh.
not above my eyes because I'm watching you.
Right.
And I'll kind of do, sometimes I'll zoom in, but whatever. And it's about 30 to 45 seconds.
Mhm.
Because my thing is, I want to expose what I just saw to other people.
Right.
I may never have heard of Ann Harris. I may never heard of Cracker, but because I
Right.
watched this video and now I'm exploring that. My
Right.
job is not to bring people to these shows. So I'm not videoing it and getting in people's way and
Right.
recording every song and doing it because that does take away from my experience. So I
Totally.
try to find that sweet spot.
But you do it right.
I do it right. I don't annoy people is the number one thing.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than being at a show when you're getting annoyed. And I know when people are doing this, that's annoying as hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I'm just doing this, and you know what, if you watch some of my videos, you see people just walking by and stuff.
Right.
I don't care about being able to necessarily see it. It's experiencing, it's hearing it that is what I
Yeah.
wanted to show people. Because back in the day, get that album.
Yeah.
You'd be, hey, come over to the room, we'll have a couple beers and listen to this new Wilco album because that's
Yeah.
legitimately happened back then.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's almost like this is now that new way of doing that.
Right. It
And
is.
trying to find a way to do it where I can still enjoy it or we still enjoy it, but not, you know. But
Yeah.
how do you feel when
Yeah.
you're looking from the stage and you're seeing just cameras in the air
Yeah. What's
or
that
that?
all
What do
about?
you feel about that?
I love it because I
Okay.
get that. I mean, we all are beholden to our devices and it's our
Yep.
memory catchers. And when you're feeling something and it's cool or you're experiencing something, you're like, ah man, I wish my sister was here. She would love this. I
Yeah.
gotta like share that impulse to capture and preserve and share and pass on. That's a beautiful thing. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there can be people that maybe are more subtle and whatever, but I respect that. I feel the same way a lot of times. I'm torn sometimes when I go see a show. I'm like I want to record it, but I also want to be in the
Right.
experience. I don't want to
Okay.
mess it up for myself. I want to stay present, so I
We've
tend to
done,
do like
we've
you
done all
do.
that. Same thing.
I'll do little snips of something and then I gotta
Hmm.
get back in there, but I get it. I'm not just a person performing. I'm also like an audience member, fan person. And
Right.
I when I get excited about stuff or I want to like share it with a person, I want to get a little piece of that
I think
experience.
what's cool, you're sharing a lot of stuff that throughout your years, like you didn't record that, but you're sharing an audio right now. You didn't have to record it. So, I mean,
Yeah,
look at it both ways.
Well, some of the most fun times
Mhm.
on our show, right? We'll have guests on that we haven't seen in 20 years. But we all went to that show together and we're talking about it and we're trying to piece it together. And that was the fun part because you have that memory, you have that
yeah,
experience, and you're trying to
Yeah.
recreate it together through the story, right? Which
yeah,
really what music is, it's storytelling, right? From the beginning of time was a different way to tell the story that was more entertaining, you
exactly.
know, and then you have the times now where you're like there and it's like you said, there's all this. So sometimes the crowd isn't even into it because they're just so focused on capturing that moment versus living in it. And that
Yeah,
is the struggle I know.
I
Um,
know. I live it for
I
sure.
know, I know, I know. But I'm glad I got a chance to actually ask you about that because
Yeah.
um I was there for Cracker. I mean, certain songs you'd see like immediately, like all of a sudden there's 100 phones in the air, you know? Oh my God, this is it.
Totally, totally.
So I don't want to kind of put you on the spot here, but as I mentioned, the Forever Five, I mean, can you think of it doesn't have to be five, doesn't have to necessarily be this. Some people are like, boom, this is them, but some of those acts that, you know, that you've grown up and it's like you have, if you were in that situation, they would be the five that I took with me or just some of
I
them.
struggle with those lists because
Oh, because it changes all the time.
I know
You know,
they
I
can
mean,
change.
I name my five and I'm like, oh, I mean, the Doors could easily be in there. Beastie Boys could easily be in there. These guys, you know, so it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I
so
mean,
what are some of those, or maybe
I
that
so
even
I'm
kind of
just gonna
inspired
toss
you?
some names out, but they might change. And as
Hmm.
soon as
Oh,
we
yeah.
end this
Oh, we will
conversation, I'll
never
be
hold
like,
it to you. In
ah, I
fact,
forgot
we'll
to
just
say.
have to have you on another time so you can tell us
Yes,
the new list.
I know, right? Exactly. I would say Prince would be one
Love Prince.
because
Do you ever
he's,
see him live?
yeah, a
You
couple of
did. See,
times.
I never could. Wow, that's awesome.
I
Couple of
saw him live a couple of times. I was on a festival. I have a great story actually about Prince. One of the times I saw him, I was touring with a blues artist by the name of Otis Taylor, who is a really cool trance blues person. And that gig was sort of like my first experience in doing a lot of European traveling
Okay.
and, um, so international travel and festivals. And we played a festival in Rotterdam, this really big, it spanned over 2 weekends. And the night we played was also the night that Prince was headlining on the main stage. We played at the smaller stage and it we played earlier in the night, like 6 or 7 or
Sure.
something. And but we knew Prince was going to be playing later, and I was hanging out with Susan Tedeschi and Derek Trucks. He sat in with us on a tune on our set, and we were hanging out backstage, and I'm like, oh my God, I really want to see Prince. And she's like, yeah, but they're not letting anyone in. Like that's a total closed thing. It's not an open policy. It's not for negotiation. And those guys are stars. I'm like, oh yeah, but man, anyway, flip forward, we had this backstage area that was really sweet. And me and the guitar player and the bass player, three of us were kind of like the partiers. And the lead singer Otis and the drummer went back to the hotel, and we're like, well, we got this sweet setup. We can just leave our stuff in this backstage room, go around through the back way because it connects down this hallway to the main stage and catch the show. It'll be awesome. We'll have a place to stash our instruments. We'll be all set up. So we're partying backstage and it's beautiful and there's food and it's really high end. And at a certain point, they're like, all right, we're clearing the backstage. So you have to get your shit out, basically. And we're like,
Uh-oh.
oh, our ruined. So we're now homeless with all of our instruments and gear on us. And we were just like didn't want to give us up on this dream and of sneaking in to see Prince.
All
So
right.
guys come up with this idea there because we're all kind of dressed up from the performance. Our show went great and everything. We have our instruments. The guys are like, you just walk past the guards like you belong. We'll follow you with all of our stuff and they're not going to question you. You look like a star. This will just work. Just believe in yourself. And we might have had a couple drinks. So we had the courage up. So we did just that. When we were finally kicked out of the room, we put on our instruments. We walked down this long hallway. There was this guard, like, to keep people from coming in. And I just walked to him, kind of looked at him, nodded, and he let me right through. And the guys followed, and we're like, I can't freaking believe that just happened. So we got to the stage, and then it was another couple hours before Prince came on. I think he started at like, I don't know, maybe 2 in the morning and played till 4:30 in the morning continuously. And it was one of them. And we were, because we had been there for hours, we were positioned just feet away from the front of the
That
stage.
is
It
amazing.
was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. It was
So
one of the most mind-blowing experiences.
I never got a chance to see Prince. I don't think Neil did either. And that it's one of the, I always say the one that got away. I would have
Yeah.
loved to have seen him. I was always more Prince than Michael Jackson. I loved them both back in the day, but you always had to pick one.
Well, they're very different,
Very different. But then
and
everyone was always like, I like
Yeah.
him. I like him. You can't like both. I'm like, well, I do. You know, I always say, we always say here, no genre's off
that's
limits.
like a Beatles Stones thing.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
No
it doesn't
genre's
make
off
sense.
limits. I can like everything, you
Right.
know?
Totally.
I mean, you know what? I learned I can actually root for like U of M football and Ohio State football because I don't really care. Because
Don't
it's
tell
all
my
good.
husband that. Don't tell my husband that. He's you
We'll
know.
edit that part out.
Yeah.
We don't edit much, but we'll edit that out. So besides
So,
Prince, who else you got in that list?
okay. I would say because there's so many swirling in my head right now. I also am a big Petty and the Heartbreakers fan. Like, I just think
He's in my
Tom
forever
Petty
five.
Yep.
is one of my favorite songwriters
Too much.
ever, hands down. Like, he's, in my opinion, he's the quintessential American songwriter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't, they're not super complicated songs, but they just, he speaks volumes
Mhm.
with, his lyrics, and obviously Mike Campbell, the band is just an incredible band. So incredible.
That's
Um
another one for me, another one that got away, but I know Neil, you saw him, I thought a
Yeah, I
couple
did
of
see him
times.
live with my
nice.
dad.
Yep, with
I
Neil and
would,
his dad, and who is no longer with us. So that was
yeah,
obviously a very special moment.
Yeah.
yeah,
But no, gosh, that kind of hits me that I didn't get a chance to see him. 'Cause
yeah.
he never had a bad song,
Ever.
you know. And I mean, remember back like on MTV, you'd see all those videos, and it was like you said, it was like he wasn't doing mind-blowing stuff. It was just classic rock and roll, great lyrics, you know, kind of catchy
Yeah,
tunes. I
All
mean,
of that.
yeah, he did it all, but he was also a very good musician, or else he wouldn't have been in the Traveling Wilburys.
yeah.
It's always the way I look at it. I mean, look at that group of musicians, you know,
I
he ain't going to
know.
be in that
Super
unless he can
creative.
hold his own.
Exactly. Incredible. I would also say Michelle Indegiacello.
Oh, nice.
You know who she is, right? Bass player,
Absolutely.
singer, songwriter. One of the reasons being that her career is so expansive. So you can listen to like her very first commercial breakthrough, Plantation Lullabies, and then you can listen to her current one, Love Songs, I think it is, and you won't. She almost sounds like a different art. Like if you were stuck on that desert island, you wouldn't
Yeah.
be hearing the same
Oh,
thing.
you like it.
That's what Prince is like to me as well. There's like when people say I love Prince, there's a lot of kinds of Princes because every record was like a different
Right.
Right.
thing. And Michelle is an artist of similar depth in that her growth and development is so vast. You could keep discovering things, over time.
Well, when we first talked to Forever Five, it literally took me 5 months to come up with the five before I'd announce it on a show, you know, because for that same reason, because, you know, like I love the Beastie Boys, but it's like, okay, if I'm on that deserted island, is
Yeah,
there that much variation from this to that? Yes, there was a
yeah,
ton of growth and different stuff, but you know, when I look at like a Ben Harper, I
yeah,
mean, if you just look at his Live from Mars double, I'd say CD, but double album,
yeah,
where it's him just jamming in some of those classic songs and some great, you know, sexual healing. And,
yeah,
but then when he just breaks out that acoustic and some of those, I mean, Another Lonely Day by him or The Drugs Don't Work, which actually I didn't realize was a cover
oh,
of The Verve.
oh,
Remember The
really?
Verve, that big song where the Stones sued him, you know,
Oh, yeah,
Bittersweet Symphony.
Yeah.
with
They
that,
actually had this song, The Drugs Don't Work,
yeah,
that I never knew Ben Harper cover. I'm like, oh my God, I love this song. But that's another one when he slows it down. So I'm like, his whole catalog, you're like this, you
yeah,
know. So that's where you struggle because like some of those, it's like, is there enough variety? Or I'm gonna
yeah.
get sick of this guy. So that's why you struggle with it, you know.
That's the problem,
Right.
And
What about
well,
that?
it's a good
And I
problem.
don't want to swing you in any direction, but like being like the classically trained, do you have anyone like the the old classics, like,
Yeah.
or no, are you just more of like, I took my classical training, I've kind of used it for
I
the way I
love the
want to, and this
repertoire.
is
I mean,
where I'm at.
I always loved Vivaldi as a composer. I loved as a contemporary more contemporary classical composer, Aaron Copland. Um, Beethoven obviously is just this lush well of romantic intensity that
The
is
old Ludwig van.
so there definite I mean, see, this is why I can't do this. I can't make these
Yeah.
decisions.
No, you know what? You gave us, I think,
I,
three, and I think that's fair because
But,
of
yeah.
like your
oh
wide,
God, I gotta say,
vast.
I can't forget Bruce Hornsby and Joni
Oh,
Mitchell. So
oh, okay.
I
Well, look,
think
there's
she was
more.
ready. Who am I kidding? We got a pro here with us.
I'm a
all right.
huge Bruce Hornsby fan, and I have been.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know what? And I love about
Yeah.
Hornsby is because didn't he played a ton with like Grateful Dead and stuff.
Yes, yes, I saw
Getting
him
back to like
play
those
with the
collabs.
Dead. I saw one of those shows at Soldier Field here in Chicago,
Oh,
a few
really?
for the Fare Thee Well tour
Huh?
that he was on, and it was unbelievable. It was so cool, and I saw the last Grateful Dead show at Soldier Field before Jerry passed.
Wow. See, I
So
never
like
saw them with Jerry, only after when they
it
did
was
the other
one
ones
time, and it was
too.
sort of like an afterthought. I wasn't a
Hmm.
total deadhead. Dug their catalog, but it was an opportunity. They were coming through, and we're like, we should just we got to bet, friends were like, we should just
Sure.
go see that. Would just be cool at that venue, so
I I love that you just said that you saw Grateful Dead and those. I mean, not that Jerry died, but that it was right before that
it
because
was months before he passed away.
that's the ones where, the ones that got away where
Yeah, we talk about it now.
we say it all the time. If there's a show that even you're not a huge fan, but you're like, man, that would be cool, go see it.
I
You
know.
never know if you're going to
You
see them
never
ever
know.
again.
Same with Prince and Tom Petty.
Right?
Yeah.
My
Right.
gosh,
Like you never, I mean, especially us growing up with them, it's like we don't age, so they don't either. You think they're going to be around forever because like the
forever.
Stones are and some of the Beatles are playing in their 80s and that
And
Willie
and
Nelson,
Buddy
and then they're
Guy.
gone. And it's like, holy crap. And the first one that really hit me was MCA from Beastie Boys,
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
because one, he was a really cool guy.
Yeah.
Talk about watching him like grow from they first started and then the
Yeah.
stuff that he stood for and everything. But then it was like, you're never going to see the Beastie Boys ever again.
No.
Sometimes a band member might die and you like kind of wish maybe they didn't play, but you still might get that, 3 out of 4. And he was the bass player, which I'm not saying
Yeah.
bass players don't count, but people that don't understand music. But like the Beastie Boys, if it ain't the three of them, there ain't nothing there. So it's like just everything about them, like, holy crap. And that was the first time where one really hit me,
Yeah.
where it was like a
Yeah,
band or something.
you said you maybe
I did
shed a
cry.
tear.
I did cry. I was sitting
I
at the
cried when
Buddy's
Prince
Pizzeria
died.
with a little tear waiting for my
Yeah.
family to show up because I
Yeah,
was coming
no,
from
I
the
bawled
airport.
like a baby when Prince died. I was
Oh,
like, I
I could.
couldn't believe it. And he was young. I mean, he was in
Oh,
his
Oh,
late 50s or something, but he was
absolutely.
yeah.
really healthy. It wasn't like, he had been struggling with addiction,
Right. I mean,
so
so many people have succumbed to that.
yeah.
But you're right. I mean, looking back, he was very young still
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
his career. He could have been doing, I mean, we could have had 20 more years out of that guy.
Totally.
I mean,
Totally.
if not
Easily,
more.
if not more. So
Um,
that's another reason why I mean, I have spent a lot of time in the blues world as a musician and playing with a lot of blues players and
a lot of great
that
Chicago blues places too,
I'm
little
telling you,
bars and stuff. Love them.
Yeah.
totally. And that's one of the reasons why, like, the blues as a genre, when you see the passing of people, like I saw BB King in Telluride. I played at the Telluride Blues
Ooh.
Fest. And I got to see BB King a couple of years before he passed. I remember seeing him. He was sitting down in a chair at the time
Mhm.
for shows, but blistering tone, crazy tasteful choice. He was like amazing. And I just, and I was so grateful to know that, like, I saw him because as it turned out, that was the last time I would have a chance to see him live. He still performed for a couple of years post that, but
Yep.
Buddy Guy, a treasure, a Chicago treasure. I saw him earlier in 24 at his own club. He's got it, his own club called Buddy Guys, and
Oh yeah,
Chicago
yeah.
guys come through make sure and try to go to that club sometime and check out whoever's there. It's always booked really well. There's always good blues there. And seeing him perform and hearing him tell his stories, and I read his memoir, it's like, what a life, this guy. What a crazy thing he's seen. You know, he's one of those people that's like so treasured and revered by bands like the Stones
Hmm.
and people like Robert Plant. All those British dudes, like they got all their best ideas from the blues cats they were here in this
I mean,
country and
Yeah,
turned it into their own amazing cool thing.
right.
which is
Oh,
good.
and you know,
I mean,
so
if you look at Clapton, I mean, basically he's just a
totally.
blues guitarist who's,
Yeah.
Oh,
kind of put his
absolutely.
twist on it. In fact, a lot of people say he's
Absolutely.
not that great. He's just a normal blues guitarist. I'm like,
Yeah,
did you watch blues guitarists? They were pretty
I
effing great.
know. I know. And it's so wonderful that, you know, the artists that do give praise and you know
Hmm.
the telling of, you know, their influences to those old cats because they've helped those guys have a career in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And and that's why I do like still going to like some of the smaller shows. Like when we
Yeah.
saw Freako the other night, I mean, a couple hundred people maybe.
I know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you know what? Every couple hundred people that were there were loving it and they were
I know.
fully engaged in that performance. And I mean, to me, I've been a fan even early on, and sometimes that kind of clouds your. But when I saw them, like I said, but I actually, I'm like, so what'd you think? And
Dude, I thought they were a great freaking band,
mhm,
Yeah,
great rock and roll fucking band,
yeah.
and in whatever you want to call it, indie rock, whatever, is they're rock and fucking roll.
right,
Love
It's
it.
a
Love
fucking
that.
jam, you know? Like,
two guitars, a bass, and a drum. I mean, you don't get more rock than
I love
that.
that. I love
And
that.
there's energy, like
there's
they're
times where it gets
yeah,
kind of melodic, and times where they're jamming, and
Yeah.
but
yeah.
like I said, it was a really good show, and like I like shows like that just as much as like seeing my favorite band in a 20,000 seat arena.
Totally.
Sometimes
I
those
do
are obviously
too.
better. The
Sometimes
smaller
those
ones
are
are
better.
better,
Oh, wait, I
especially
love
when you
it.
catch those ones you really love and you follow
Yeah.
them to that arena,
Yep.
you know.
I
But
made a mistake on my desert island. I left off Bob Marley. Oh, I'm
oh
so
I don't think you did.
no, no, actually, your desert island I think might have room for six. So whenever, well,
I'm like, how can I be on an island and not have some kind of reggae music, you know?
well, we do have rules. No, the two dudes part of our name actually started from years ago when we were partying one night. We made a mixtape, and it was the best mixtape ever, and it was called Two Dudes. Me and
Nice.
Neil made
Nice.
it, and there was all these rules, whatever, and blah blah blah. So,
Love it.
when we created the podcast, we had actually two dudes, and then another mixtape about 6 months later, Two Dudes Part Two. And I thought
Awesome.
about calling this Two Dudes Part Three, but then I came up with the name, and then so we kind of stick to the rules. But for you, we'll bend them. You're Forever Five. We'll call it
Yeah,
Forever Five plus one.
well,
It's like a wedding invitation. You got yourself a plus one there, Ann.
Excellent.
Well,
super stuff right there.
absolutely, absolutely. So, um, I can't thank you enough for joining us. This has been an absolute blast.
Thank you.
Thank
I will
you.
say of all of like
Get out of here, Ann. Come
so
on.
many
Thank
concerts
you.
I go to, and that I'm like, hey, I'd love to have you on our show. You're actually the first person who's like, oh my God, that'd be great. So we've had so much fun getting to know you.
Thank
I'm
you so much.
serious. Would definitely want to hit that show. It was in Three Oaks, right?
Yeah, you don't want to miss
In
that.
June, the
Talk about a
21st.
great, yeah,
And
great
You don't
venue to
wanna
see
miss
that band.
no,
A
I'm
great venue.
serious. I want to
Yeah,
go to that
first-
for sure, and I'll be in touch with you and let you know if we're coming for sure. Because it'd be great to go grab a beer or something
Dude,
while
that'd
we're
be
there at the Journeyman's.
yeah, yeah, for
All
sure.
right. So
Thank you,
one,
guys.
thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. You are one of those people that I love about music. You spread the joy with it. You enjoy going to see it. You
Thank
enjoy
you.
collaborating with all walks of life. And that's what we do. No genres off limits here. Just go enjoy live music, enjoy the crowd. And again, thanks for joining
Oh,
us.
I'm
Thank
so
you, Ann.
honored. Thank you guys both for your time,
You're
and I'll
on.
Oh,
see you.
absolutely.
I will see you in
And
Three Oaks, right?
and tell you what, we might actually have to get you back on. We'll see what you've been up to since then.
Yeah, for sure.
All
I'm
right.
sure I'll have lots of stories to tell by then. That's a
All
long time
right.
away.
Love it. All right. Have a good one.